They are a little bit of a smish-mosh of different ideas. They are all absolutely free, really making life simpler and easier for mamas. And celebrate my first month of vlogging. My name's Taryn and I'm a professional baker from South Africa. I've baked some crazy, weird and wonderful cakes in my time, and now I hope to pass those skills on to you as I bake, make and create with the Supermoms Club. Pop the flour, pop 4 eggs, pop your mixture, pop some chocolate, pop, 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 pop. Yes, pop is really a word I like to use. Welcome to episode number 4, almost a month of vlogging. And today we are going to be making a really special little recipe. This vanilla cupcake recipe was my workhorse. I have baked this recipe thousands of times. So you'll notice it's pretty similar to last week's recipe, and that's because I developed this recipe at the same time. I really wanted ease of use. If I was baking vanilla cake, I would have the ingredients out to bake cupcakes as well. And that's a real bonus, especially if you are under a lot of pressure, if you're baking for a birthday party. Cake and cupcakes kind of go hand in hand. So these two recipes really do work so well together. So today we are not only going to be baking the cupcakes, we're going to get into some decorating as well, where I'll give you a bit of a piping tutorial so that you can really take just an average cupcake and make it into something special. So on that note, let's get into the ingredients. You'll need 2 eggs, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence, a pinch of salt, a 1/2 cup of sunflower oil, a 1/2 cup of milk, a 1/2 teaspoon of white vinegar, 1 1/4 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda or bicarb. So I've put my oven on to 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you may have noticed that all my recipes up until this point start with eggs, and there's a really good reason for it. The fluffier you beat your eggs, the fluffier your bake will be, and it will just be that much nicer. So you can put your eggs into the mixer and then beat them on a really high speed until they start becoming paler in color. So now my eggs are beaten really well, and I can add the sugar and then continue to beat again on a high speed until the sugar and the eggs have combined. Now we're going to get all the wet ingredients into the mixer. So you can start with the vanilla essence, then add the oil, then you can add the white spirit vinegar into the milk and give that a stir, and then add that into your mixer. And then beat the ingredients with a paddle attachment until they are all combined. So probably for about 30 seconds or so. Now we're going to add the dry ingredients. So you can start by adding a pinch of salt and then slowly sieve your flour into the mixture. You can beat the mixture for about a minute or so. You really want your flour to be mixed in nicely, that there aren't any little clumps of flour floating around in the mix. We are almost done. So the last ingredients to go into the mixer are the baking powder and baking soda. Give them a light beat for about 20 seconds, just until they've combined. So now using a cupcake pan with a 7 cm round cupcake size, place paper casings inside it. My cupcake batter is almost ready to go into my pans. Now what I like to do before I start is make sure that all the cupcake casings are nice and level inside my pan. If they aren't level, you may find that your cupcakes will rise more on one side and they won't be nice and uniform and round as a cupcake should be. Also, I use a 1/4 measuring cup. I fill that with cupcake batter and then place 3/4 of that 1/4 cup into each casing. So for this recipe, your yield is 15. If you find that you are only filling 12 cupcakes, you've placed too much batter in each of those casings, and you should rather readjust so that you get exactly 15 cupcakes out of your mix. Then using a toothpick, pop any air bubbles that are sitting on the surface of the batter. Put them in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. From 12 minutes onwards, start checking. Once they're nice and golden on top, then they're ready to come out. Absolutely yummy. Perfect little cupcakes. Now I'm going to let my cupcakes cool. Usually what I do is pop them in an airtight container and then let them rest overnight. By morning they will be super moist. Also, another really great idea with this recipe is to make a double batch. These cupcakes freeze really well, so you can place your second batch into your freezer, and then whenever you feel like cupcakes, you can haul them out, let them thaw, and then decorate them. So now for the buttercream icing. It's pretty much the same as last week's episode. If you happen to miss that, you can go into my channel pages and then look for my buttercream icing tutorial. So now I'm not going to go into mixing it all over again. It is just a slightly lesser quantity, so we'll get straight into that. The ingredients are 80 grams of butter, 80 grams of white margarine, 80 grams of cream cheese, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla essence, 480 grams of icing sugar, and a splash of milk if needed. Icing a cupcake is probably one of those really big challenges that you need to jump over. It can be quite difficult because often people don't know how to hold an icing bag and then to pipe nicely. So we'll definitely get into that demonstration shortly. So I used basically a combination of 3 different piping tips. They were kind of my standard, and we'll be going into those today, and I'll show you exactly what each of them do. Then you can place your icing tip inside a disposable bag like this. I like to use disposable bags. I find they are a lot more hygienic, but it does kind of tend to leave a residue if you are using a reusable bag. And then you can use a knife and then just slowly slice away that top little section of the bag so that the tip is completely exposed. There we go, as easy as that. Now I like to hold my bag kind of midway up. Fold it over your hand like that so that you've got a nice opening, and then you can pop your icing into the bag. And then use your fingers to pull the icing down towards the tip. So now you are going to give your bag a little bit of a twist. So twist it around and you'll actually start to feel that there's quite a fair amount of pressure where your icing is sitting. And you can keep squeezing until your icing just pops out of your tip. So the biggest problem when you're icing is actually getting air bubbles inside your icing bag. That kind of makes a big plopsh as you are piping it onto your cupcake, and it makes a bit of a mess. So you really don't want that to happen. So now what I'm going to do is just pipe 3 of these cupcakes. So I start in the middle, you work over here, and give it a bit of a squeeze. So you can see these back fingers of mine are actually creating the pressure. These are just there to guide your piping bag around. So give it a squeeze in the middle and then work your way going around your outer edge, and then you're going to come all the way back into the middle again. So kind of make a bit of a circle, and then you just lightly pull up, and as you do that, release the pressure on these fingers at the back end. So squeeze again, and then come all the way around on your outer edges, and then come back into the middle, release your grip, and pull up. Really easy. So now, as you notice actually, and it's just instinctual, I keep tightening this back end. So all the time I want to feel the same amount of pressure that is on this part of the bag. So now the next one that we are going to get into is going to use the same piping tip, and you'll start in the middle and then work your way going all the way around. So just gently pressing down and then lifting your tip as you go along. And it really does create this lovely little kind of star pattern on your cupcake. Alright, so the next 3 are done. So now we are switching out our tip and doing a more kind of frilly pattern. So this now, you kind of want your icing to not be touching on your cupcake when you go around. You kind of want it just to be a bit more loose as you work your way around. So keep your tip quite elevated and then just jiggle your hand backwards and forwards as you work your way around. Perfect. So now the fourth piping technique that we're going to do is just using a normal rounded tip. You're going to work your way from the middle again and then work around the outside and then come back into the middle. Gently release your pressure and then pull your tip up. And then the last one that we'll do is also with a rounded tip, and you are going to start on your outside edge and then just apply a bit of pressure, lift your tip, apply pressure, lift your tip, and work your way going all the way around. So pretty much it is 3 little rings of icing that you're going to be creating. So your outer one, and then you can come into the middle with maybe 3 or 4 little dots, and then you can top it off with just one in the middle. So quite a funky little pattern. And I have just made it on my icing. So there's still a little bit in the dish, but not that much to spare. Our cupcakes are iced and they are ready to be taken up a notch. So now we are going to add some sprinkles and chocolate balls and just some yummy little goodies to make them look even more appetizing than they look already. I'm trying to hold myself back here. But before we get into that, if you are a mommy and you are planning a birthday party for your little one, there are some really great resources on the supermomsclub.com website. They are all absolutely free, completely free. So all you do is you go in, look at the birthday party section, and you'll find invitations, printable cupcake toppers, little drinks labels, stuff for treat boxes, absolutely everything that you can think of for birthday parties. Now, they're not mainstream kind of character parties, so no Spider-Man and those kind of things, but more princess, army, cowboy, those kind of things. So just the normal run-of-the-mill. Obviously, the other stuff has got copyright on. These have been created by me, so the copyright is held by me and they are free to use for you. And that's what the Supermoms Club is all about, really making life simpler and easier for mamas. So now we are going to get into taking these up to the next level. So now we will do 2 sets of these cupcakes with those toppers. Cut out the little topper, and then using a toothpick and a hot gun, you can place the toothpick at the back of the cupcake topper and then place it into the cupcake. You can top it off with some sprinkles or some glitter, anything just to give it that extra pizzazz. They are looking so cute. So now for the ones that are iced like this, I like using little straws. So you can cut your straw into thirds and use some funky colors just to kind of liven it up a bit. And then you can just place a straw into the side of the cupcakes and then sprinkle them with any sprinkles that you like. Alright, so next we are going to add some chocolate little balls to these ones. And then you can come back around and just kind of repeat your pattern again, finishing off around the top of the little ball. And then you can top them off with some melted chocolate. So I have just popped some chocolate into the microwave on 50% power. And then just using a zippy or a freezer bag, you can pop some chocolate into that. Then you can cut your tip, just make a small little cut. And then you can drizzle it over the top. Kind of just go left to right and then bring it across the other way so that you're making like a crisscross pattern almost. And then for the last one, I am going to just pop some chocolate going in between all of these little gobbledygoos that are sticking out. So just to give it a little bit more depth and make it a little bit more interesting. And just like that, 15 little cupcakes done and decorated. They are a little bit of a smish-mosh of different ideas, but hopefully you've learned some piping skills today. And now I am going to steal away 6 of these, pack them in a picnic basket, and enjoy the beautiful spring blossoms that have filled my peach tree and celebrate my first month of blooming. In next week's episode, my banana caramel tart. If you liked this episode, hit the like button and remember to subscribe to see more videos.